Okay, good morning, everyone. I think we reached the quorum already. Please be seated, then we can start the meeting. We have an agenda left behind, and we need to finish this today before the next agenda for tomorrow. I would like to start with announcement. The committee to note that Ireland will be added to the Intersessional Working Group on the review of Resolution COV 8.13. The executive summary number 2 has been posted and will be considered in the session after lunch. In-session documents will be posted in all languages throughout the morning for the consideration after afternoon. For this afternoon, Again, in-session document will be posted in all languages throughout this morning for the consideration this afternoon. We will now consider executive summary number 1. I will request the Secretariat to briefly explain what is the content in the executive summary and the summary record to be produced after the meeting. The floor is yours, Secretariat.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to draw the committee's attention to Rule 18 of the Rules of Procedure of the Animals Committee. It explains the difference between the executive summary and the summary record. So a concise executive summary of the decisions of a committee shall be prepared by the Secretariat for endorsement by the committee. So that's what you're looking at today. It is literally just the decisions that were taken by the committee. So whenever the chair says, for instance, we agree the recommendations of paragraph 25 with the following amendments, this is what you will find in this executive summary. And 40 days after the meeting, the Secretariat will prepare a summary record, and that's where your interventions will be found. So if you cannot find your intervention here, it's normal, it's not where it belongs. It will be in the summary record that will be produced after the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Okay, now we go to the executive summary 1. Please check the document, and if any changes in the word, please raise. I'll give the floor to the committee first. Nomenclature.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. I have 2 corrections and additions to make in Summary Record 1. The first is on page 2, section 14.1, review of trade in animal specimens reported as produced in captivity. Small b, below there, triple little I, last full line, Sulcata taken from the wild and used as breeding stock. There is a full stop behind stock that should be removed. And then next on page 4, where the membership of the working group is mentioned, please add the nomenclature specialist as one of the members. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomenclature. Now I still open to the members. Any changes in the summary record 1? Now I give the floor to observer parties. Okay, observer organization. Okay, thank you.
The amendment.
So the executive summary 1 is adopted with amendment by nomenclature. Thank you. Now we go to agenda 25, ranching of the aquatic species. I would like to invite Secretariat to introduce the document. Secretariat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. This document considers the implementation of Decision 20.153 on ranching of aquatic species directed to the Animals Committee. Paragraphs 3 to 8 provide background on the development and application of the terms ranching and ranch specimens, as outlined in Resolution Conf 1116, Rev Cop 15, on ranching and trade in ranched specimens of species transferred from Appendix 1 to Appendix 2, and Resolution Conf 12.3, Rev Cop 20, on permits and certificates, respectively. To assist the Animals Committee, the Secretariat has extracted relevant data from the CITES trade database, which is found in the annex to the document, and consolidated existing information on the application of the ranching source code for aquatic species using humphead wrasse, European eel, and sturgeons and paddlefish as case studies. Finally, the table in paragraph 19 outlines some potential approaches for consideration by the Animals Committee in discussing the application of the ranching source code or to aquatic species. So to facilitate the implementation of Decision 20.153, the committee is invited to establish an intersessional working group with the mandate presented in paragraph 21 of the document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Now I open the floor to the members of the committee. Then I give the floor to the observer parties. Ireland, then followed by Brazil. Ireland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for bringing forward this document. Ireland believes that this is an urgent issue. In our view, despite the fact that the term aquatic species covers a whole multitude of phyla, never mind classes or orders with vastly different life cycles, it's difficult to think of any case where the use of source code OR is appropriate. So at the very least, we would hope that this working group will conclude that it is not appropriate, or that where it is used, it should only be in cases where the specimens are harvested prior to the stage in the life cycle where mortality is highest, and it should be accompanied by a non-detriment finding that assesses the impact of the take on the wild population, because some non-detriment findings in the past relating to source code OR have failed to do that. So yes, this is urgent, and we welcome the document, but we would be hoping for a relatively conservative outcome in this case. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ireland. Next, Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Brazil considers the review of the application of source code R to aquatic species to be particularly important, since it is being applied to species that possibly do not meet the criteria. For example, freshwater stingrays of the genus Potamotrigon are characterized by low reproductive rates and periodic reproductive cycles. These raise questions as to whether they meet the criterion of a low probability of survival to adulthood, which is fundamental to the concept of ranching, since the removal of offspring may affect the natural recruitment of wild populations. Brazil is also concerned by the application of source code R to exports by countries outside the natural range of endemic species, as appears to be the case for the Brazilian endemic species Potamotrigon leopoldi. Such situations merit careful examination, as they may create opportunities for the laundering of wild-caught specimens. For these reasons, Brazil supports the establishment of an intersessional working group and considers the proposed analysis extremely important, especially point 7 of paragraph 19 of AC 34.25, which aims to identify taxa for which the concept of ranching is not applicable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brazil. I give the floor to the UK.
UK thanks the Secretariat for preparing this document. At COP20, the UK was a co-proponent with Mexico and the United States of America of document 67.2, which addressed concerns about the inconsistent and potentially incorrect application of source code R to aquatic species. The definitions of source code R in both ResConf 11.16 and ResConf 12.3 are imprecise, resulting in a lack of consensus among parties regarding its use for certain aquatic species. We acknowledge that harvesting of eggs or juveniles from the wild and rearing them in captivity can, in some cases, represent a more sustainable approach than harvesting mature individuals. However, we are aware that concerns exist over the applicability of the current definition of source code R to some production systems, notably for some aquatic species where their unique and complex life histories and production methods may render its application inappropriate or unviable. We fully support the formation of an intersessional working group with the mandate outlined in paragraph 21 of the present document. The UK looks forward to collaborating with parties and observers to advance this work with the aim of developing recommendations that support the appropriate application of source code R to aquatic species. We extend our congratulations to Argentina for their World Cup win last night. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, UK. I give the floor to Japan, Russia, and China. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Japan appreciates this document and can go along with the proposal way forward, including the establishment of working group. In Japan's view, it is not be pragmatic to develop definition of source code R, which is common for entire aquatic species. Rather, application of source code R to aquatic species should be considered for each species or stock on a case-by-case basis. From this perspective, Japan will engage with the working group in a constructive manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Благодарим секретариат за подготовленный документ. Российская Федерация считает актуальным вопросы, указанные в представленном документе, относительно применения кода источника R к водным видам. Мы убеждены, что существующая правовая база требует большой юридической четкости для правильного и единообразного применения кода R всеми сторонами, чтобы исключить ошибки и неправильные интерпретации данного кода. Это особенно ярко выражается по видам, имеющим ограниченный ареал. Так, на рабочей группе по отбору видов страна для обзора отмечались соответствующие вопросы и обеспокоенности по использованию данного кода для ряда видов. Мы поддерживаем создание межсессионной рабочей группы и готовы к участию. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you. After China, I will close for the parties observer, then I will go to the observer organization. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. China supports the establishment of an intersessional working group, and China will actively participate in it. Source code R has been debated for quite a long time. China is of the view that different parties have different understanding of code R, and it is better to leave its definition open. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. Now I invite observer organization, IUCN.
Thank you, Chair. This intervention is made on behalf of IUCN and 10 other organizations whose names will be provided to the Secretariat. We welcome document 25 and remain concerned that source code R is being applied to certain aquatic species in ways beyond its original intent and inconsistent with the biological realities for those species. For particular species, especially pelagic spawners, these issues have not been adequately resolved despite many years of discussion under the Convention. The humphead wrasse, Chilenus undulatus, illustrates these concerns. Although listed on Appendix 2, more than 20 years ago, the species remains classified as endangered on the IUCN Red List following its recent 2024 reassessment. The species' extinction risk has not improved since listing, while questions remain regarding the scientific basis for determining sustainable levels of collection and export and the applicability of source code R to current production practices. We note that concerns regarding the use of source code R have been raised repeatedly in meetings of the Animals Committee, Standing Committee, and Conference of the Parties since 2000. And more recently in relation to aquatic species, yet important technical and implementation issues remain unresolved. We therefore support the establishment of an intersessional working group to further examine these issues and develop clear guidance. We also encourage parties to consider whether alternative source codes, including source code W, where appropriate, may provide greater transparency and oversight until the scientific basis for the use of source code R can be clearly demonstrated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, IUCN. Okay, now I will read the conclusion. I think we have voiced to support the establishment of the intersessional working group. Establish an intersessional working group with the mandate presented in the paragraph 21. Then now I will invite the members. The chair will be Animal Committee Vice Chair, represent North America, and alternate represent Central and South America and Caribbean. Is it okay? Right, now other member will join to the intersessional working group. Okay, I will give the floor to the observer parties will join. Ireland, Indonesia, Germany, Australia, Brazil, France, Zimbabwe, UK, Russian Federation, Uganda, Zambia, Japan, China, Belgium, USA, Spain, Italy, Laos PDR, Canada, Oman, Argentina, Portugal, and Botswana. Now I invite observer organization. Okay. SSN, Franz Weber, IUCN, FAO, OFI, ADM, WWF, Traffic, UNEP WCMC, AWI, Center Biological Diversity, ASA, and GGT. Okay, we have 23 parties and 13 observer organizations. By establishing this intersessional working group, the agenda items 25 is closed. Thank you. Now we move to the agenda item 35, IL, Anguilla SPP. I would like to invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. This document outlines the Secretariat's proposed implementation of Resolution Conf 20.3 on trade, conservation and management of anguillid eels, Anguilla SPP, and decisions 20.198 to 20.202 on eels, Anguilla SPP. Concerning implementation of the resolution, proposed activities, including development of reporting guidance information gathering through a notification, creation of a dedicated CITES webpage, and engagement with parties on implementation, illegal trade, and enforcement. Concerning implementation of the decisions, paragraphs 15 to 19 outline previous CITES discussions on the reintroduction of live seized eels, and paragraphs 20 to 24 on discussions on distinguishing European eels raised in aquaculture from wild eels in the trade data. To facilitate the implementation of Decision 20.201, the committee is invited to establish an intersessional working group with the mandate presented in paragraph 26 of the document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Now I will invite the members. Comment from the members. Okay, Oceania.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Oceania thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of the present document. The continued collaboration among parties to address issues relating to the conservation, management and trade of anguillid eels, including efforts to strengthen implementation and enforcement, is an important issue. The proposed intersessional working group would provide a sensible pathway forward to consider aspects of the recommendations outlined in paragraph 26 of the present document. Oceania therefore supports the establishment of an intersessional working group to progress this important work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Oceania. North America region.
North America region appreciates the Secretary's work in preparing document AC 34, document 35 on anguillid eels, and summarizing the work to be undertaken in line with Resolution Conf 20.3 and decisions 20.198 to 20.202. The North American region supports the Animals Committee establishing an intersessional working group to work via electronic means with the mandate outlined in paragraph 26 of the document, including developing recommendations for consideration by the Animals Committee at its 35th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, North American region. Now I give the floor to the observer parties. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Japan's basic position is to promote conservation and management of eel resources, not only Japanese eel, but also other eel species, including Appendix 2 listed European eel. In this regard, Japan fully supports the proposed establishment of intersessional working group on this topic. In this opportunity, Japan would like to draw participants' attention to the document AC 34 in 13 describing recently taken conservation measures on eel by Japan. Japan is committed to implement the Resolution Conf 20.3 on conservation of eel species. Furthermore, in June 2026, at the informal consultation on the eel resources management with China, Korea, and Chinese Taipei, importance of cooperation for the Resolution Conf 20.3 was confirmed. In this regard, Japan looks forward to the discussion under the working group. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. I give the floor to Netherlands.
Thank you, Chair. I was reading something else, sorry. And good morning. We thank the Secretariat for the preparation of document 36 on eels. We support wholeheartedly the establishment of an intersessional working group and agree with the mandate of the proposed working group as presented in paragraph 26. However, we would like to highlight one thing. With regard to point C and in reference to paragraph 20, we would like to reiterate the EU position as stated at COP20, that eel aquaculture is not largely, but exclusively dependent on wild-caught glass eels or juveniles. Make a distinction in source codes might give the impression that aquaculture has a lesser or different impact on the population in the wild. Thank you.
Thank you, Netherlands. I give the floor next to Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chair. We also like to support the establishment of the intersessional working group, given the broad mandate is outlined in the document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Next, Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia welcomes document AC34, Doc 35, and we do commend the Secretariat for its clear roadmap. We also support the proposal to establish an intersessional working group, as we believe this will allow parties to collectively review information submitted under the forthcoming notification, also examine risks and benefits of reintroducing seized live eels, and consider practical options to better distinguish aquaculture-raised and wild specimens in CITES data. We are ready to contribute constructively to this work, and we encourage broad participation from range states to this work. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zambia. Now I give the floor to Senegal, and I will close and we'll give the observer organization.
Le Sénégal ne
you
sera
have
pas
the floor.
long. Nous nous inscrivons dans le même sens et soutenons la création de ce groupe intercession. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. Now I give the floor to the observer organization. IUCN, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We make the following comments in support of the mandate of the proposed intersessional working group. Firstly, understanding the impacts of reintroducing seized eels into the wild is essential. The evidence for benefits at the population level for moving eels from one location to another, sometimes referred to as restocking or stock enhancement, is limited and often location-specific, and it may do more harm than good, despite it being promoted as a conservation measure. As such, it is important to ensure that any seizures returned to the wild do not impact existing wild populations. Secondly, discerning between wild-caught eels and those taken from the wild and on-grown in both domestic and overseas culture facilities is fundamental to traceability and legality of specimens in trade. This applies both to listed and non-listed species. Finally, Resolution 20.3 adopted at COP20 contains proposed actions that would measurably improve the understanding and the management of anguillid eels. It's well understood that due to the interconnected nature of harvest and trade of anguillids, efforts to manage a single species in isolation will be less effective for listed and non-listed species alike. The resolution was adopted with many parties arguing it was more appropriate than a genus-level listing. As such, we would urge all anguillid eel range states and importing countries to commit to cooperating domestically and internationally to implement the resolution and ensure the harvest and associated trade in these shared stocks is sustainable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, IUCN. CMS.
Thank you, Chair. The CMS Secretariat welcomes the proposal to establish an intersessional working group on this matter. We would like to inform the committee that at COP15, CMS parties adopted Resolution 15.6, which established a single species action plan for the European eel. This SSAP was developed in response to the species being critically endangered and its recruitment remaining at a historical low. We wish to echo the intervention made by the CITES Secretariat at CMS COP15, where CITES offered to be a key partner for implementation of this SSAP, specifically regarding Objective 4, which focuses on eliminating unsustainable exploitation and strengthening range-wide management. The proposed mandate for this working group is closely aligned with CMS priorities. And furthermore, CMS COP15 adopted decision 15.115D, which explicitly directs the CMS Secretariat to collaborate with the CITES Secretariat on relevant activities relating to the European eel and to include this in the next CITES CMS joint work program, which is currently in preparation. We look forward to actively collaborate with the working group.
Thank you, CMS. Now I close the intervention. Now I conclude the committee has agreed to establish the working group with the mandate presented in the paragraph 26. I invite the chair for this intersectional working group represent from Oceania and represent Europe. Thank you. Now I ask the observer members who will join to the intersectional working group. UK, Asia.
Is that two? One or two members from Asia.
The parties will join. Please raise. Ireland, Russian Federation, Australia, Italy, Zambia, China, Netherlands, USA, Lithuania, UK, Dominican Republic, Japan, Portugal, Germany, Canada, Spain, Belgium, France, Lao PDR, Austria, sorry. Japan, I think you have been included. Now I invite observer organization will join. CMS, SSN, IUCN, Traffic, Northeast FWA, UNEP WCMC, IWMC, WWF, GGT, Southeast FWA, International Fur Freight, Japan and US, and FRO.
Federation.
Okay, we have 19 parties and 13 observer organizations. By establishing this working group, the agenda item 35 about eel is closed. Agenda item 34, consideration in international trade in fish maw. I invite representative of Central and South America and Caribbean to introduce the document.
Gracias, presidente. Señor presidente, distinguidos miembros del Comité de Fauna, observadores y colegas. Nos complace presentar junto con Brasil el documento 34 sobre el comercio internacional de vejigas natatorias de peces, el cual hemos preparado en respuesta a la creciente preocupación internacional con respecto a los impactos en la conservación que genera este comercio global en expansión. En los últimos años, diversos foros internacionales, incluyendo la CMS, la Comisión Ballenera Internacional, la UICN y el Parlamento Europeo, han destacado la urgente necesidad de abordar riesgos de conservación asociados con el comercio insostenible de vejigas natatorias. Este comercio se dirige a un número cada vez mayor de especies, en particular a las corvinas grandes de la familia CITES, muchas de las cuales se caracterizan por rasgos biológicos que las hacen especialmente vulnerables a la pesca insostenible. De hecho, la sobreexplotación es la principal amenaza para más de 150 de las 286 especies de la familia CITES, varias de ellas categorizadas como en peligro crítico, en peligro, vulnerable o casi amenazadas, y 8 como datos insuficientes. El comercio de vejigas natatorias se ha expandido desde entonces, lo que sugiere que esto no refleja el actual de las especies, el objetivo, por lo tanto se necesita más información. Al mismo tiempo, el uso generalizado de redes de enmalle en las pesquerías de estas especies da como resultado la captura incidental de un número significativo de especies amenazadas de cetáceos, tiburones, rayas y tortugas marinas, incluidas en los apéndices de CITES. De hecho, el mamífero marino más amenazado del mundo, la vaquita marina, está en peligro de extinción como consecuencia de estas pesquerías. Como se señala en el documento 34, el comercio de vejigas natatorias comparte con otros productos marinos secos de alto valor, como las aletas de tiburón y los pepinos de mar, desafíos relacionados con la identificación de los productos procesados, la limitada disponibilidad de datos y la complejidad de las cadenas internacionales de suministro. En consecuencia, el documento propone la inclusión de un nuevo punto en el orden del día sobre el comercio internacional de vejigas natatorias de peces y la creación de un grupo de trabajo interseccional para recopilar información que nos ayude a comprender mejor el alcance, las características y los impactos de este comercio, el estado de las especies objetivo y las medidas que pueda adoptar CITES y otras organizaciones intergubernamentales para hacer frente a los desafíos de conservación y gestión. Entendemos las limitaciones actuales de los recursos en la Secretaría. Nos gustaría asegurar al Comité que no se pretende que este sea un ejercicio gravoso. Específicamente, no estamos proponiendo reuniones presenciales, sino simplemente un grupo de trabajo interseccional que se comunicará por correo electrónico y sujeto a la disponibilidad de recursos externos para la traducción simultánea, ocasionalmente por Zoom. En conclusión, esperamos que esta iniciativa contribuya a fortalecer la colaboración ya existente entre la CBI y la CMS, así como con varios grupos de especialistas de la UICN, para aumentar nuestra comprensión de este comercio y su impacto en la seguridad alimentaria y apoyar la conservación y uso sostenible de las especies afectadas. Por último, queremos dejar claro que se presentó el informe AC 34-INF16, cuyo objetivo es modificar el mandato del grupo de trabajo propuesto en el AC 34-DOC 34, reduciendo el alcance de dicho mandato, el cual consiste básicamente en recopilar información disponible sobre este tema. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. Yes. Central, South America, and Caribbean. Now I invite Brazil as a co-proponent to take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Brazil fully supports further consideration of this issue by the Animals Committee and would like to highlight a few additional considerations on fish moss. Recent information submitted to CITES, together with developments in other international fora, points to a rapidly expanding international trade in fish moss and a growing international recognition of the need to improve the sustainability, legality, and traceability of this trade. This development deserves the committee's attention, as its impacts may extend beyond target species, some of them already listed as threatened, to the wider marine ecosystem through associated bycatch, while also raising concerns regarding food security and the livelihoods of coastal communities. We recognize that this is a complex issue. Brazil and other range, transit, and consumer states already hold relevant information, although some data gaps remain. We therefore believe that the appropriate first step is a collective effort to compile, organize, and assess the available information, thereby building a stronger scientific and technical basis for the committee's future work and a clearer understanding of the trade, its scale, the species involved, and the main conservation and implementation challenges. It is important to stress here that the intention is to gather and assess the available information and to identify data and knowledge gaps. Brazil hopes to count on the support and active participation of parties, relevant organizations, and experts in working together to develop the knowledge base needed to inform the committee's future discussions. With your indulgence, Mr. Chair, we would be interested in hearing the inputs from the Secretary regarding this important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. Now I invite Secretariat General to give the comment.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. And thanks to Argentina and Brazil for their proposal raising this issue. As you are aware, as provided in Resolution Conf 18.2, the Animals Committee is instructed to undertake the tasks which are directed to it by the Conference of the Parties as the ultimate decision-making body through relevant resolutions or decisions. Work on fish moss was not mandated by the COP to the parties, the Standing Committee, the scientific committees, or the Secretariat. After constructive dialogues with Argentina and Brazil, the Secretariat is proposing to issue a notification at the request of Argentina and Brazil, inviting parties and organizations to submit information as set out in Information Document 16 to the member of CISAC and to Brazil to inform a possible submission of a document for consideration by the Conference of Parties at a future meeting. This would help facilitate preparation of Argentina and Brazil for a future COP meeting and is in line with what the Secretariat has done before when new issues arise that are of concern to parties during the intersessional period. We would therefore suggest that the Animals Committee at this meeting invite members, parties, and observers to share their inputs with the proponents on this matter of fish moss at the request of Argentina and Brazil after issuance of the pertinent notification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Secretary General. Now I come back to Central and South American Caribbean region.
Gracias, presidente. En relación con esto, entonces, proponemos la siguiente recomendación para la consideración del Comité de Fauna. Sobre la base de la información presentada, los proponentes recomiendan que el Comité de Fauna considere la siguiente recomendación enmendada. Se invita al Comité de Fauna a tomar nota de las preocupaciones relacionadas con las vejigas natatorias de peces planteadas por quien está hablando y Brasil. Solicitar a la Secretaría que emita una notificación a las partes, invitando a las partes, a las organizaciones y demás investigadores a compartir con el representante de la región de Centroamérica, Sudamérica y el Caribe y con Brasil la información indicada en la página 2 del documento AC 34-INF16 e invitar a los miembros, las partes y las organizaciones a remitir sus comentarios a los proponentes para su consideración. Gracias.
Thank you, Central and South America and Caribbean region. I think this is how we move forward with this issue. But now I still give the floor to other members. Asia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We thank the representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean and Brazil for preparation of the document. The text of CITES clearly defines a specimen as any readily recognizable part or derivative thereof. Controls apply to specimen as a whole rather than any single specific trait form of such specimen. Thus, Asia region does not support the establishment of agenda item dedicated to regulating specific trait forms of specimens and CITES. And this is inconsistent with the provision of the convention text. Asia region suggests that relevant discussions be carried out under CMS, FMOs, or other relevant agreements rather than CITES. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Asia. Now I give the floor to North America region.
Thank you, Chair. The North American region agrees with the proposed way forward suggested by the proponent and the Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, North American region. Now European.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. We would also like to take the opportunity to thank Brazil and the regional representative for Central and South America and the Caribbean for submitting the document and also the information document and bringing this issue to the attention of the committee. So we agree that the international trade in fish more raises important conservation concerns and merits further attention. And we also recognize that there are linkages between trade in fish more and CITES-listed species, which may include, for example, the incidental catch of CITES-listed species, which could include sharks, marine turtles, or also marine mammals, or lookalike issues. But at the same time, we also feel that it's very important to stick to the terms of reference of the animals committees. And so we therefore highly appreciate the constructive and pragmatic proposal by the Secretariat and acknowledge that the proponents accepted this proposal. And so, yeah, we are very pleased to support this way forward. But we recognize the importance of the issue, and we would just like to thank the proponents to further work on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, European. Now, Oceania.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Brazil, as well as the member for Central and South America and the Caribbean for drawing attention to this important issue. Oceania appreciates Brazil and the member for Central and South America for bringing the matter of fish maw trade to the attention of the Animals Committee. The Oceania region shares concerns regarding the potential conservation impacts associated with unsustainable fishing practices and the bycatch linked to fisheries supplying fish maw products. We would also encourage early and ongoing engagement with parties from the Oceania region when matters of this nature are being developed, noting the unique capacity, resource and implementation challenges faced by many countries in our region. Such engagement helps ensure that regional perspectives, practical considerations and implementation realities are appropriately reflected in discussions and any future work. In this regard, the Secretariat of the Pacific Regional Environment Program, SPREP, may be able to assist to support communications, coordination and liaison across the Oceania region as appropriate. As such, we support the revised pathway forward as suggested by the Secretariat and the proponents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Oceania. Africa.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Nous remercions le Brésil et les collègues d'Amérique latine pour la préparation de ce document. Monsieur le Président, nous sommes préoccupés par les impacts potentiels de ce commerce sur les espèces ciblées et les espèces capturées accidentellement, ainsi que le manque de données, la faible traçabilité et les risques de pêche illicite. C'est pour cette raison que nous soutenons la proposition du secrétariat sur ce sujet et la proposition amendée. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Africa. Now I will give the floor to the observer member. Please be brief and also very focused on the mandate of the, not the mandate, but we are discussing in this matter. Argentina.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente, y permítame también felicitar a Inglaterra por este gran partido que llevamos a cabo y que, bueno, por lo menos uno tenía que ganar y gracias a Dios que fuimos nosotros. Pero bueno, más allá de eso, quería apoyar esta propuesta que han tenido con la Secretaría, con el representante regional y con Brasil, dado que creemos que este ítem es muy importante y sería muy importante que tengamos los datos, que tengamos todas las informaciones para poder trabajar con este tema que es de alta preocupación, no solo para CITES, sino para CMS, también para la Comisión Ballenera Internacional. Y si me dejan, con su indulgencia también, presidente, la Comisión Ballenera Internacional, que no pudo estar presente, me dijo que por favor traiga ese mensaje y que ellos estarían muy interesados en dar información y que se trabaje todo este tema todos juntos. Bueno, muchas gracias.
Thank you. Argentina, then Senegal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Sénégal s'associe à ce qui vient d'être dit par les autres. Le Sénégal remercie les membres du comité pour l'Amérique centrale, du Sud et des Caraïbes, ainsi que le Brésil pour la préparation de ce document 34. Nous partageons les préoccupations relatives aux impacts du commerce des vaisseaux natatoires sur les espèces ciblées, mais également sur les requins, les raies, les dauphins, les tortues marines et les autres espèces capturées accidentellement. Le Sénégal soutient les recommandations du document, notamment la création d'un groupe de travail intersection et le renforcement de la coopération avec les organisations internationales. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Senegal. Chile.
Gracias, señor presidente. Para Chile, país comprometido con la conservación marina y la gestión sostenible de sus recursos, es importante que este comité apruebe el estudio propuesto sobre el comercio internacional de vejigas natatorias. El documento evidencia que este mercado se ha expandido rápidamente, con impactos significativos sobre especies objetivo y no objetivo, varias de ellas ya incluidas en los apéndices de las CITES. Tal como señala el informe, la sobreexplotación se considera una amenaza principal para más de 150 de las 286 especies conocidas de la familia ciánides, lo que demuestra entonces la urgencia de actuar. Chile considera que este estudio no solo permitirá un análisis técnico riguroso en coordinación con CMS, la Comisión Ballenera Internacional y otras organizaciones, sino que también se convertirá en una herramienta valiosa para la toma de decisiones al mejorar la trazabilidad, la disponibilidad de datos y la capacidad de evaluar la sostenibilidad del comercio. Aceptarlo refuerza el rol de las CITES en prevenir el agotamiento de una serie de especies vulnerables y en asegurar su uso sustentable de los recursos marinos. Invitamos respetuosamente a apoyar esta iniciativa y a establecer el grupo de trabajo propuesto, convencidos de que este esfuerzo será clave para la conservación y la gestión sostenible a nivel global. Muy amable, muchas gracias.
Thank you, Chile. I would like to invite China.
Thank you, Chair. China agrees the view of the regional representative of Asia that CITES implements trade control targeting on individual species rather than on specific trade form. In line with the provision of the Convention, China does not support the establishment of the agenda item dedicated to specific trade forms, which is inconsistent with the provision of the Convention. Concerning the meeting document AC 34.34, it lacks adequate supporting evidence and basic logical coherence and contains inaccurate assertions. For instance, paragraph 8 of the document claims that the extremely high market value of total harbor swim bladder drives fishers to engage in illegal harvesting, which is a statement unsupported by scientific evidence or concrete data. Paragraph 9 alludes that swim bladder have evolved from a byproduct of certain fisheries into the primary target of fishing operations, and the fishers in some producing areas discard an entire carcass after removing only the swim bladders. This is also go against economic logic because, for example, taking the total harbor example, the fresh swim bladder only accounts for 2 to 3% of the total body weight. So discarding the rest of the catch by only extracting the swim bladder does not represent the waste of the fishing input cost and then the waste of the utilization of fishery resources. Paragraph 10 mentions that Hong Kong SAR is an important trade hub for fish maw. However, the data of which the literature cited for this statement are not updated. These studies were conducted in 2015 to 2018, which is about 10 years ago. There's no recent published data of import of fish maws into Hong Kong, and thus using Hong Kong SAR as an example of this agenda is not convincing and conclusive. Paragraph 12 states that agriculture has failed to alleviate demand pressure on wild source swim bladders. This does not align with the factual reality. Currently, the bulk of swim bladder traded internationally derive from farmed but not wild harvested species. Furthermore, the farm fish are fully utilized rather than being just traded for the swim bladders. So given the existing heavy workload of CITES, coupled with the immature content of this document and the lack of urgency of this agenda item, China opposes the establishment of an intersessional working group. Instead, China echoes the view of the regional representative of Asia that relevant discussion should be carried out under the framework of CMS, IWC, and RFMOs. Thank you.
Thank you, China. Before move forward, I would like to bear in mind that we are in the stage of gathering the information, not establishing the intersessional working group or other move, just now in the gathering information position. So the solution that proposed by Secretary General, I think that's already agreed by many committees. And I just want to hear different views on that. And after 3 parties that asking for the floor, I will close and give the opportunity to the observer organization, who support and also different perspective about how we move forward for this agenda item. Now I invite Panama. After Panama, there will be Dominican Republic and Japan. After that, I close for the parties and goes to the observer organizations. Panama, you have the floor.
Buenos días, señor presidente. Como es la primera vez que damos una opinión cuando usted está eligiendo, felicitamos por su posición y por el gran trabajo que ha venido realizando. Bueno, creo que realmente esta es una propuesta que es necesaria. Le agradecemos al delegado del Comité de Centroamérica y el Caribe, y es evidente que realmente es una situación que necesitamos resolver, es información que se necesita recopilar, y ayer tuvimos la oportunidad de conocer un poquito más en un side event de todo lo que realmente hay al respecto, y se confirma realmente que hay una problemática asociada al comercio de vejigas natatorias. Por eso agradecemos a los proponentes, a Brasil y al delegado del Comité de Fauna de la región de Centroamérica y del Caribe por esta proposición y por la enmienda propuesta por la Secretaría, así que estamos totalmente de acuerdo con el documento. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Panama. Dominican Republic.
Gracias, señor presidente, y felicidades por la excelente conducción, a la Secretaría por la organización de la reunión. Apoyamos plenamente la propuesta con la recomendación y modificación de la Secretaría. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Dominican Republic. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan echoes general concern raised by our Asian representative and does not feel urgent necessity of notification on this topic. While Japan does not block the revised way forward, Japan is concerned that the proposed scope of issues listed in this document are still too broad. Also, given the increasingly overloaded situation of the Animals Committee and CITES, Japan would like to request the Secretariat to limit the scope of upcoming notification to those matters fully within CITES mandate, which is regulation of international trade, not fisheries. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Now I clear the list for the parties, so I would like to invite the observer organizations, two observer organizations. Okay, I give the floor to FAO.
Sorry, Chair, I withdraw my request for the floor.
Now I give the floor to AWI.
Thank you, Chair. The Animal Welfare Institute is speaking on behalf of 10 NGOs whose names we'll provide to the Secretariat. We commend the proponents for bringing forward this timely document. Importantly, CITES would not be alone in treating the international trade in fish maw as a priority issue. As we have heard, both CMS and the International Whaling Commission have recently begun to address bycatch of threatened species in fisheries supplying the fish maw trade. But they do not have the mandate to address trade aspects and are seeking greater collaboration with CITES. CITES is uniquely positioned to provide leadership on the international trade dimensions of the fish maw trade, thanks to its global membership and expertise in trade monitoring, species identification, and capacity building, especially for marine products that share many characteristics with the fish maw trade. CITES can play a central role in better understanding the nature, the scope, and the drivers of the trade, and its multifaceted impacts on both CITES-listed and non-listed species. we believe the way forward proposed is a good compromise to build robust evidence that will help ensure the international trade in fish maw is sustainable, traceable and well managed. But Chair, may I seek clarification that the report to be prepared by the proponents will be brought back to AC 35 under this agenda item? I wasn't clear if the Secretariat said to the COP or back to AC. Thank you.
Yeah, regarding the questions, the last question. So it's going to bring back to the animal committee or directly to the COP by the parties proponent. Is it clear? Okay, thank you. Now I give the floor to IWCMC.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense AWMC. Mais, Monsieur le Président, nous sommes là devant un problème qui est évidemment extrêmement important et nous remercions la production de ce document. Mais nous devons nous rendre compte que ce qui est demandé va en principe en dehors de ce qui devait être le rôle du secrétariat, car il ne s'agit pas de faire des études sur le commerce des espèces. Mais nous soutenons la position présentée par des pays d'Asie, la Chine, l'Asie et la région asiatique, parce qu'effectivement, ça va au-delà du mandat de la CITES. C'est important de faire ces études, mais comme suggéré, ce devrait plutôt être le rôle de la FAO, de la CMS, de la FAO, de l'UICN et éventuellement d'autres organismes, mais pas le rôle du secrétariat en lui-même, à ce stade en tout cas, car ce n'est pas un problème de commerce, c'est un commerce de conservation des espèces au niveau national, ou dans les autres internationales. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. I think we already hear many views on that, so I can conclude the agenda item 34. I conclude that the Animal Committee takes notes the concern regarding the trade in fish maw raised in the document AC34, and the comment made during the discussion in the plenary. The Animal Committee invites the Secretariat to issue a notification to the parties, requesting parties and organizations to share information set out in page 2 of the document AC34 in 16 with the representative Central South American Caribbeans and Brazil, and invite members, parties and organizations to share their comments with the proponent for the considerations. Is it okay? There's no asking for the floor for the members? Okay. I think we conclude that and we close the agenda item 34. Thank you. The agenda item 39, Seahorse Hippocampus SPP. The document SE 34-39 was submitted by Monaco and the IUCN SSG Seahorse, Pipefish, and Sea Dragon Specialist Group. It presents new resources developed to support implementation of the COP20 decision on the seahorse. The Animal Committee is invited to note the information and encourage parties to make use of these new tools and guidance resources in implementing the seahorse decision. Now I would like to invite the members, request the members, if any requests, the floor for the members. European, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to take the opportunity to sincerely thank Monaco and also the IUCN SSC Seahorse, Pipefish and Sea Dragon Specialist Group for the tremendous amount of work that has gone into developing these resources. We highly appreciate the considerable scientific effort invested in producing such practical and comprehensive guidance. And in particularly, we welcome that standardized monitoring protocols and the guidance on conservation planning, which will provide value support to parties in implementing CITES requirements and strengthening the scientific basis for the conservation and sustainable management of seahorses. And therefore, we are very happy to note the document and to encourage parties to make full use of the resources. Thank you.
Thank you, European. Any others members? Observer parties will take the floor about seahorse. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous remercions les efforts qui sont en train d'être développés sur l'étude des hippocampes. Le Sénégal est concerné par une suspension et que nous avons démarré en tout cas l'étude sur place et je crois que nous arriverons à des résultats pour mieux prendre en compte les préoccupations et peut-être lever la suspension parce que ce n'est pas une espèce consommée par des Sénégalais et c'est des prises accidentelles. Malheureusement, une étude a été publiée sur notre dos sans qu'on soit associé dans l'étude et voilà les conclusions auxquelles on est arrivé. Donc vivement nous souhaitons que cette étude se réalise pour voir de près qu'est-ce qui se passe. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. Next, Indonesia. I give the floor to Indonesia.
Thank you, Chair. Indonesia take note the guidance document as submitted by Monaco and IUCN SSG SPS SG and consider them useful in supporting more consistent science-based implementation of CITES for hippocampus species. Indonesia also notes that several elements of the guidance are already aligned with our national efforts, including the development of National Plan of Action for Seahorse Conservation and Management, the application of national technical guidelines, ongoing capacity building activities, and the designation of Hippocampus comes as a priority species for targeted monitoring. Indonesia remains open to continued constructive engagement with the Animal Committee and the Secretariat as this implementation efforts progress. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. Any other parties will take the floor? Now I give to the observer organization. IUCN, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The IUCN Seahorse Specialist Group continues to stand ready to support parties in implementing CITES, including the decisions adopted at COP20. To that end, we have developed 3 guidance documents that connect directly to those decisions, and we're grateful to Monaco for its generous support in making this work possible. The first is the Guidelines for Signathid Conservation Translocations, developed jointly with the IUCN Conservation Translocation Specialist Group. These guidelines matter because seahorse releases can do real harm to wild populations if undertaken without rigor. The guidance sets out the scientific and planning standards needed for translocations to actually support conservation rather than undermine it. The second is our guidance on conservation planning, which supports implementing the decision calling on parties to develop national or regional plans of action for seahorses in trade. The guidance gives parties a flexible framework for turning CITES commitments into practical conservation and management strategies. And finally, our standardized sampling protocols for SIGNATHID monitoring and conservation addresses the COP20 call for parties to develop monitoring programs to understand the effectiveness of trade rules and any other actions for conservation and management of seahorses. This suite of protocols supports monitoring underwater, with gear, through fisheries and trade, and gives parties a common comparable way to gather that evidence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, IUCN. Okay, so I can conclude this item agenda. Concerning agenda item 23, I conclude the committee notes the document AC 34.39. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 28, West African vulture. I would like to invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. The document covers the implementation of revised decisions on West African vultures, including responses to a notification to the parties issued by the Secretariat. Only 2 West African range states, Niger and Senegal, responded to the notification. In the document, the Secretariat notes that between 2023 and 2026, only 6 out of the 16 range states have submitted any information on West African vultures when notifications were issued, which represents a significant gap in reporting. The production of vulture identification materials for law enforcement, directed in Decision 19.194, will proceed if external funding is secured. Parties and intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations are encouraged to submit existing identification materials to the Secretariat to facilitate this work. No reports or requests for advice on non-detriment findings were received from parties as anticipated under Decision 19.195, and no members of the Animals Committee reported receiving such requests. The Animals Committee is invited to consider the recommendations in paragraph 21. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Now I give the floor to the members.
Okay,
Africa, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Nous remercions le Secrétariat pour ce rapport sur la mise en œuvre des décisions relatives au vautour de l'Afrique de l'Ouest et nous soutenons les recommandations proposées. Vous l'avez souligné tout à l'heure, le taux de réponse très largement insuffisant des États de l'aire de répartition à la notification du Secrétariat. Et cette lacune empêche toute évaluation régionale cohérente de l'état des populations et des menaces. Et nous appelons l'ensemble des États concernés à communiquer leurs informations avant la prochaine session du comité. Donc nous notons avec préoccupation aussi que l'empoisonnement demeure la principale menace identifiée sans qu'aucune contribution n'ait été apportée à la base de données régionales sur les empoisonnements de la faune. Et nous encourageons également les États et organisations partenaires à y remédier en priorité. Donc je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Africa. Next, European.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to thank the Secretariat for the report. We note the document and regret the lack of responses to the relevant notification, this one and also the one published in 2023. with a total of only 6 of 16 range states for the West African vultures having provided information, and only 2 responding to the most recent one. We thank Niger and Senegal for their responses and acknowledge and commend them for their efforts to strengthen protection of these highly threatened species. We agree with recommendation B, C, and D to request the Gambia, Mali, and Nigeria to provide the Secretariat with information relating to non-detriment findings made to inform the authorization of trade in vulture species, and reminding all range states that an NDF is a requirement before authorizing any export of wild source specimens. We would like to raise concerns, especially on the trade from Mali and Benin. With recorded trade from Mali of wild source specimens involves 6 of the 7 relevant species, with the trade being for primarily commercial purposes. With all 6 species being assessed as critically endangered or endangered, this trade is cause of significant concern, as all trade entails significant risks to the species conservation status. A robust NDF is absolutely crucial to ensure the trade was non-detrimental to the wild population. Recorded trade from Benin involves exports of the critically endangered Rupel's vulture and the endangered lappet-faced vulture with source code C for Sioux purposes, trade only reported by India as the reporting party. Captive breeding of lappet-faced vulture is particularly rare and complex. We were not able to find any recorded active captive breeding centers in Benin for large raptors, leading to doubts that these 5 specimens were indeed captive bred. We would therefore like to propose a new point D, and I will read it out. Invite Benin to share the non-detriment finding for the founder stock of captive bred specimens of Ips rupelli and Torgus tracheliotus, that it is breeding in line with Resolution Conf 10.16 Rev Cop 19 on specimens of animal species bred in captivity. So this would then make the previous recommendation D into E, which we don't have any amendments on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European. No? Africa, you have the floor. Oh, Africa, give the floor.
Je voulais juste compléter pour dire que j'ai reçu le plan d'action national pour la conservation des vautours charognards pour le Sénégal. Ce plan a été validé et est disponible. Je pourrais le partager. C'est le vautour charognard Necrocystes monachus. Merci.
Thank you, Africa. Now I give the floor to the parties from West Africa. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et merci pour la considération portée à ces espèces de charognards. Personnellement, c'est une préoccupation, c'est des espèces que je suis au niveau national et je crois que voilà 2 conférences des partis, je ne cesse de parler de ces espèces. En réalité, j'aime toujours attirer l'attention et je vais le faire ici pour tous les participants. Sachez que ces espèces de charognards nous rendent un grand service dans ce qu'on appelle la curée atmosphérique. Parce qu'un animal qui est mort, on ne sait pas de quoi il est mort. Mais ces espèces, en le consommant, nous protègent, nous l'homme. Mais il se passe que dans mes observations, que je vais partager avec vous, quand vous êtes sur le terrain et que vous trouvez une carcasse d'un animal mort couché à gauche, sachez que les vautours ne vont pas manger la carcasse. Et je crois que c'est une information importante pour nous qui sommes dans l'environnement. Quand vous voyez un animal mort qui n'est pas entré en putréfaction, de grâce, arrêtez-vous et renverser l'animal sur le côté droit, vous rendrez service à l'homme et à ces vautours qui vont le consommer. En réalité, ce qui se passe, c'est un problème anatomique parce que ces vautours, la gypse du ripel et la gypse africaine, quand elles arrivent les premiers sur la carcasse, c'est elles qui ouvrent la carcasse parce qu'ils ont des becs qui sont très robustes. Mais quand ils ouvrent la carcasse, ce qui les intéresse en premier, c'est le cœur et le foie. Ces parties sont plus accessibles sur un animal mort à gauche. Voilà la simple raison, la simple réponse à ça. De grâce, si vous trouvez un animal qui est mort dans la nature, renversez l'animal du côté droit et l'animal sera visité par les roufous. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. Now I give the floor to Ghana.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ghana welcomes the Secretariat's report on the implementation and accepts all its recommendations. As a RIN state, Ghana recognizes the significant threats posed by poisoning, illegal trade, belief-based use of vultures, and supports continued regional cooperation through the West African Vulture Conservation Action Plan and the CMS Vulture Multi-Species Action Plan. We also support the Secretariat's efforts to develop identification materials and strengthen the capacity of enforcement authorities, subject to the availability of funding. Building the capacity of frontline officers and improving ecological monitoring and data collection will be essential for effective implementation of CITES provisions. Finally, Ghana supports the recommendations once again contained in the document and encourages increased financial and technical support for West African range states to enhance vulture conservation, combat illegal trade, and strengthen national reporting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ghana. Now I give the floor to Togo.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, je voudrais soutenir le travail qui est fait par le secrétariat et l'ensemble des membres du comité sur la conservation des vautours en Afrique de l'Ouest. Je ne sais pas, je voudrais juste informer qu'il y a un atelier régional qui va être organisé très prochainement au Nigeria. C'est du 2 au 5 au Nigeria sur le plan d'action de conservation des vautours en Afrique de l'Ouest. Je ne sais pas si cette information est connue par les collègues de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, mais je sais qu'au cours de cette rencontre, il y a beaucoup d'activités, beaucoup de documents, d'outils qui vont être développés pour permettre au pays de travailler sur la conservation de ces espèces-là. Et donc, je voudrais féliciter le secrétariat et l'ensemble des délégués qui ont contribué à l'élaboration de ce document et vous rassurer qu'il y a beaucoup d'efforts qui sont en train d'être faits au niveau régional pour la conservation des vautours en Afrique de l'Ouest. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Now I invite parties, several parties. Israel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As this is the first time Israel is taking the floor at this meeting, we would like to thank the Secretariat for its excellent preparation and organization of the meeting, and to congratulate you, Mr. Chair, on your election. Israel supports the recommendations contained in the document as a range state of the Egyptian vulture and a party to both CITES and CMS. Israel emphasizes the importance of addressing poisoning and illegal trade across the species' entire migratory range. We also support stronger verification of NDFs, legal acquisition and source codes for any international movements of wild-sourced vultures, including transfers described as being for scientific rescue or zoological purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Israel. Ireland.
Thank you, Chair. At COP20, the European Union fully supported the transfer of the critically endangered white-backed vulture and the Ruppel's vulture from Appendix 2 to Appendix 1, but noted that the relevant decisions are aimed at 7 species, which all face similar threats. As such, the European Union considered proper implementation of the relevant decisions, especially Decision 19.192, Rev COP 20, crucial to ensure that trade is not shifted towards the species still in Appendix 2, and encouraged West African range states to implement a zero annual export quota for all the species included in Appendix 2, in line with Decision 19.192, Rev COP 20.b. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ireland. Now I give opportunity the floor to the observer organization. Traffic, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Decision 19.194, Rev COP 20, paragraph A, specifies the production of identification materials for use by law enforcement officials, focusing on parts and derivatives of vulture species. The IUCN and traffic analyses of the proposals to amend the CITES appendices at the 20th meeting of the Conference of the Parties found that West African vulture species are traded in parts or plucked, reducing identification capabilities. Parts traded include heads, legs, eggs, feathers, bones, carcasses without feathers, and feces. Laundering of other species once in these less identifiable forms, as Gyps africanus or G. rupelli, has been observed. Identification materials developed should consider these trends. Traffic is available to support through providing information and assistance in developing identification materials, through hosting these materials on the various TWIX platforms, particularly EU TWIX and West Africa TWIX platforms, and aiding the Secretariat and the CMS in capacity building. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Traffic. Okay, now I can conclude the agenda item 29. I'm sorry, 28. I conclude that the Animal Committee expressed concern regarding the lack of response received from the relevant range states and encourage them to submit information prior to the 35th meeting of the Animal Committee. The Animal Committee agrees the recommendation in the paragraph 21 of the document SE 34 Top 28 with the additional recommendation D proposed by representative of Europe 2. D. Invite Benin to share the non-determined finding of the founder stock of the captive bred specimen of Gyps rupelli and Torcus tracheoliotus that it is breeding in line with the resolution COP 1016 on the specimen of the animal species bred in captivity. I think that's the conclusion of the agenda item 28. Now I close the agenda item 28. Thank you. All right. Okay. Agenda item 26, resolution COP 9.21, first COP 18 on interpretation and application of the quota for species included in Appendix 1. I invite Secretariat to introduce the document.
Thank you, Chair. The document is submitted to the Animals Committee based on paragraph 2 of Resolution Conf 9.21 Ref COP 18, which instructs the Standing Committee and the Animals Committee to keep under regular review, every 9 years or sooner if necessary, quotas for Appendix 1 species established by the Conference of the Parties. It is the Secretariat's understanding that the 9-year review period runs from COP 18 in 2019 and will expire in 2028, coinciding with COP21. As any amendments to quotas would require a proposal to amend the appendices to be submitted at least 150 days before COP21, the Animals Committee may wish to consider when the review should be initiated. The document covers 4 species of COP-established quotas: Acinonyx jubatus, Capra falconeri, Diceurus bicornis, and Panthera pardus. It provides an overview of the implementation of quotas for cheetah, markhor, black rhino, and leopard. Overall, parties have generally remained within their established quotas, and parties provided additional information relating to cheetah and markhor. This information is contained in the annexes to the document and Information Doc 18. With regards to decisions on leopard, the Secretariat has secured partial funding to support parties in consolidating information on the management and monitoring of leopard hunting quotas under Decision 18.169 Ref COP 20 and Decision 20.140. The Animals Committee is invited to determine whether a review of quotas for Appendix 1 species should be initiated in advance of COP 21 or deferred until after COP 21, and invite parties with leopard quotas to consider also consolidating and sharing information on the management and monitoring of cheetah hunting trophies, given the overlap in range states. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. Before I give the floor, I would like to invite to focus first in the recommendation 21A, then we go to species by species. I would like to invite the members first. Any members who Okay, as I said before, that we are going to review the recommendations species by species. I would like to invite, we are going to work first on the cheetah. Any members will take a floor? Then I invite observer parties. Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the question before us is whether the review of quotas for Appendix 1 species established by the Conference of the Parties should be initiated before COP21 or deferred until after COP21 for the species identified in this document, and specifically as per instruction, the cheetah. Chair, I may wish to bring to your attention, as what Secretary has already said, the current 9-year period, review period for these quotas expires in 2028, which fortunately or unfortunately coincides with the 21st COP. So under the existing resolutions, a review should not be undertaken before the expiry of the agreed review period, unless there is compelling new scientific or management information which demonstrates an urgent need to reassess the quotas before the end of the 9-year cycle. So in view of these considerations, and speaking specifically for Zimbabwe,
Zimbabwe supports deferring the initiation of the quota review until COP21, when the current 9-year review period is concluded. The position is justified by the fact that the existing quotas are not being fully utilized, and Zimbabwe has maintained a voluntary zero export quota for cheetahs since 2017. Deferring the review would also allow additional scientific and management information to be collected, providing a stronger evidence base for any future decisions. While the available information suggests that a reduction in the cheetah quota may ultimately be warranted, postponing the review until after COP21 would ensure that proposed amendment is considered within the agreed review framework and is supported by the best available scientific evidence at that particular time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Namibia.
Okay. Good morning to you all, and thank you, Chairperson. We would like to thank the Secretariat for a well-prepared report before us, and also to thank all the relevant range states for providing the information as requested to allow the Secretariat to prepare the report before us. First of all, we would like to emphasize that Namibia emphasizes that wildlife utilization by law must be sustainable and therefore informed by science. We conduct population assessments of all of our species in international trade to inform offtake levels as well as our trophy hunting regulations. Coming specifically to the cheetah, Chairperson, Namibia is currently the only range state with active international trade in cheetah specimens. But since 2010, we have exported trophies representing less than 100 animals in any given year, while as our export quota annually is 150. To ensure sustainable utilization and trade, we have taken a decision at the national level, and I underline at the national level, to review our trophy hunting regulations pertaining to all our carnivores, leopards and cheetah included. The review process will inform us to either adjust our quota or maintain them, and also whether we should introduce additional restrictions. We have just concluded our cheetah population assessment, and therefore the proposed review process will be concluded by mid next year. Coming to the recommendations, based on in paragraph 22 of the document, on recommendation A, we see no need for the review to be initiated in advance of COP21 for the same reasons already articulated by Zimbabwe, and I'm not going to repeat that in the interest of time. But also in the case of cheetah, as I earlier said, Namibia is the only country which is currently trading internationally in cheetah specimens, and we have already taken a decision at the national level that we will review our trophy hunting regulations, and most probably will also decide to adjust our quota, and if need be, then we'll prepare the proposal to the next COP to adjust the quota. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Namibia. Botswana.
Thank you, Chair. Let me thank the Secretariat for preparing this document, 26. Botswana aligns herself with Zimbabwe and Namibia to defer the review of quotas for species in question to after COP21. This would assist in the alignment and efficient implementation of the CITES programs, Chair, noting that paragraph 17 of the document concludes that the quotas of the concerned species seems to be well managed by the range states based on the provisions of CITES. There seems to be no cause for alarm. Botswana has got a small quota of 5 cheetahs, despite being amongst the top population holders, and we are generally not using that quota the decision taken at the national level. We also further wish to thank Chair for availing resources to further strengthen our systems for management of the species. I submit.
Thank you. There's a request from the member. I give the floor to the Europers.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would like to thank the Secretariat for providing the document and the range states that provided additional information, which was very useful. Just a general comment on recommendation A. We would agree with the Secretariat's conclusion that the export quotas for the 4 Appendix 1 listed species with COP-adopted quotas appear to be generally well managed by range states, in the sense that they have not been exceeded according to the trade data for the period 2016 to 2024, presented by the Secretariat in the present document, noting that Pakistan provided a reasonable explanation for exceeding their quota in 2021. On the cheetah, we would like to thank Namibia for the additional information provided on the floor, recognizing their commitment to review the national population status and the hunting of cheetah in the country, and if deemed necessary, to submit a proposal for COP21 to amend the export quota in the annotation of the listing. We do not believe that a review is necessary at this point. This commitment by Namibia shows their strong commitment to sustainable use of wild species, ensuring that their export quotas are based on the best available and most up-to-date scientific information. We would also like to welcome the information provided by Namibia in their response to Annex 1B to the present document, and their work on a national population survey that we just heard was completed, and a national cheetah conservation and management strategy, as well as reviewing the regulations relating to nature conservation, along with the conditions for predator trophy hunting permits to obtain approval for only male cheetahs to be eligible for trophy hunting. We acknowledge that Zimbabwe has had a zero export quota since 2017 and writes in Annex 1C to the present document that no cheetah hunting has taken place since 2017, reflecting a precautionary, conservation-focused approach informed by national population assessments and broader biodiversity objectives. We would fully agree with the zero export quota for Zimbabwe, given the very small cheetah population in the country, estimated at only 132 to 143 animals in 2024, and believe that this should be reflected in the annotation to the listing. We therefore invite Zimbabwe to consider amending their export quota for cheetahs with a proposal to COP21 in line with the best available up-to-date information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, European. Now I come back to the parties. USA, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just have a general comment on Section A, that the United States supports a practical, science-based, and flexible interpretation and application of quotas under Resolution Conference 921 that enables sustainable legal trade, including hunting, while opposing rigid or zero quota approaches driven by an anti-trade ideology. The United States strongly supports clarifying and applying quotas in a manner that respects non-detriment findings and allows well-managed legal trade and hunting, which have proven effective for funding conservation and providing economic benefits to range states by channeling revenue to local communities and anti-poaching efforts. as demonstrated by successful programs in Africa and the strong conservation record of regulated hunting in the United States. The Standing Committee's conclusion that quotas for Appendix 1 species seem to be well managed is grounded in data and validates great efforts by our colleagues in the range states. The United States supports evidence-driven and risk-based allocation of limited resources by the Secretariat and the committees within CITES. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. Okay, we are still in Cheetah. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania appreciates the Secretariat assessment, which confirms that Appendix 1 hunting trophy quotas are generally being implemented in accordance with the Convention and relevant resolutions. Tanzania notes with satisfaction that its annual leopard hunting trophy quotas has remained within the approved limit, and that the country has continued to implement science-based, non-detrimental findings and adaptive quota management. Tanzania supports deferring the review of Appendix 1 quotas until after COP21 is approved under Resolution Conf 9.21 Rev COP 18. Since no new scientific and management information has been presented to justify an earlier review, initiating a review before the scheduled timeline would impose unnecessary administrative and scientific burdens on range state without demonstrating conservation benefits. Tanzania further supports continued collaborations among range states in sharing experiences on leopards and cheetah management, provided that such exchange remains voluntary, practical, and adequately supported through existing CITES processes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tanzania. I will close the request from the parties after the Central African Republic. Central African Republic, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Juste pour informer l'assistance qu'au niveau de la RCA, il n'y a pas de quota de guépards, mais la RCA a développé un plan d'action national pour la conservation des guépards et des licaons. Et présentement, ce qui est en cours, c'est le processus de recrutement, de mise en place d'une coordination nationale pour gérer ce plan d'action afin de contribuer à une gestion durable des guépards et des licaons en République centrafricaine. Et donc, la RCA se réjouit et remercie le secrétariat pour un éventuel appui financier pour essayer de renforcer la conservation des guépards sans pourtant parler de quotas. Voilà l'avis de la République centrafricaine sur les guépards. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Central Republic of Africa. Then now I give the floor to the observer organization. I only take 2 observer organizations. Okay, Humane World for Animal Welfare.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep my comments brief. I speak on behalf of 13 organisations whose names will be provided to the Secretariat. For cheetahs, Namibia's unchanged quota of 150 live cheetahs and trophies since 2000 requires urgent review given a global mature population of just over 6,500 cheetahs, with a declining trend. As noted in paragraph 16, Activity 6.2.2 of the African Carnivore Initiative Programme of Work has not been implemented, leaving key NDF-related gaps. We therefore urge the committee to recommend an urgent review of cheetah quotas. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, WWF.
Thank you, Chair. I will talk about both cheetah and leopard. That way I don't have to talk again after. I'm giving this intervention on behalf of WWF, IUCN, Cheetah Conservation Fund, Traffic, and ZSL. In accordance with Resolution Conf 9.21, RevCop 18, on interpretation and application of quotas for species included in Appendix 1, we urge the Animals Committee to undertake a comprehensive review of quotas for both cheetah and leopard prior to COP21. Regular surveys are critical to determining whether trophy hunting is sustainable. Continued monitoring is needed to ensure that this offtake does not become unsustainable when added to ongoing threats that include habitat loss and high levels of mortality from poaching and conflict with livestock farmers. We note that the most recent information for the Southern African subspecies of cheetah indicates that cheetah populations in Southern Africa are not stable as previously suggested, but are actually in steep decline. Similarly, recent large-scale camera trap studies in Southern Africa have also shown large variations in population densities of leopards, including in some cases lower densities than previously estimated in the region. So for these reasons, the committee should encourage range states to conduct regular surveys and adjust quotas as appropriate, as this is necessary for adaptive management. These methods should be developed in line with scientific best practices in an inclusive and transparent process, and we stand ready to support range states with these efforts. Thank you.
Okay, I give the floor to Ireland.
Thank you, Chair. And at the outset, we refrained from taking the floor earlier because we've noted your intention to go species by species. But with the evolution of the discussion and previous interventions, we feel that this is the correct time to make our submission. Ireland believes that the hunting trophy quotas for Panthera pardus from all range states that have extant quotas should be reviewed as a matter of urgency. It is true that they were last reviewed in 2018. However, persistent problems remain in arriving at national population estimates on which to base non-detriment findings. Previous such population estimates have often been extrapolated from surveys in protected areas, and they almost certainly do not reflect the situation in the countryside at large, where loss of prey base, human-wildlife conflict, and habitat fragmentation remain persistent and growing threats. We recall that at the time of the 2018 review, some commentators privately expressed the view that although the quotas were too high, this wasn't a concern because the actual exports were lower. To the extent that this is the case, and we are by no means convinced that it is, it would imply that the quotas at a minimum should be lowered to reflect export figures. However, in our view, as matters stand, even that would be insufficient, as even those exports, the actual exports, appear to lack robust non-detriment findings. Rather, what is required as a matter of urgency is a full review before COP21. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ireland. Okay, thank you, Alan. But now I will come back to CITA to get a conclusion. I will come back to Zimbabwe for the proposal from Europe to submit the amendment proposals to the COP. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Can you come back again on a specific request so that you respond properly?
I would like to invite Europe representative to read clearly, and then Zimbabwe can get the point. Europe, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And we mentioned that we agree with the zero export quota Zimbabwe has had in place since 2017, and we believe this is based on the very small population size in the country, and we believe that this should be reflected in the annotation to the listing, and we therefore invite Zimbabwe to consider amending their export quota for cheetahs with a proposal to COP21 in line with the best available up-to-date information, recognizing that the best available and up-to-date scientific information may be able to support a quota higher than zero, but we do invite Zimbabwe to consider this prior to COP21, as we do not believe that the quota of 50 could be sustainable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Europe. I come back to the Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chair, and also thank you very much to Europe for raising the issue. Chair, at this point in time, we are not desirous of submitting a review downwards of the quota before COP21. As you have said before, that we should be patient enough to wait for the lapse of the 9-year review period, and this places the issue out of emergency because already there's a zero quota, there's no intention to hand before 2021. So collect as much information as we can and allow the review to be carried out. And as I have said in our earlier statement, that a downward review as it stands now is probably warranted, but we are comfortable to propose a downward review of the quota after the lapse of the regulatory 9-year period. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Zimbabwe, I think that's clear. Okay, I will read out the conclusion for cheetah, and then we can go to the another species. For the cheetah, the Animal Committee determines that based on the information provided by Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe, the review for cheetah will be deferred to after COP21. Europe, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Not disagreeing with your conclusion, I just wanted to thank Zimbabwe for their response and fully acknowledge their wish to wait for the review until 2029, which we are absolutely happy to accept, considering their zero export quota for cheetahs at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Europe. Now we move to Marco Capra Falconeri. I would like to invite Pakistan to give the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As this is Pakistan's first intervention in plenary, I would like to congratulate you on your election as Chair of the Animal Committee. I wish you every success in guiding the work of this meeting. Pakistan thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of document AC34 Doc 26 and for its balanced assessment of the implementation of Resolution Conf 9.21 Rev COP 18. We also appreciate the inclusion of Pakistan's submission as Annex 2 to the working document, as the survey report from the province of Balochistan became available after the document had been finalized. It has been submitted separately as Information Doc AC34 in 18. Chair, Pakistan's annual export quota of 12 Markhor hunting trophies remains within the quota established by the COP and is allocated on the basis of annual scientific population surveys conducted by the provincial wildlife authorities with the support of the CITES Management Authority and national scientific institutions. The documents before the committee demonstrate Pakistan's continued efforts to strengthen scientific monitoring through standardized survey methodologies, age and sex classification, and collaboration with scientific experts and conservation organizations. Chair, Pakistan considers the recovery of Markhor populations to be a strong example of successful community-based conservation. Regulated trophy hunting coupled with local community participation, habitat protection, anti-poaching efforts, and continuous monitoring has contributed significantly to the conservation of the species while generating tangible benefits for local communities. Pakistan would welcome the continued support of the Secretariat and relevant specialist groups in strengthening national population surveys through development and implementation of standardized survey methodologies across the country, as well as the implementation of CITES guidance on NDFs. Finally, Pakistan wishes to highlight a practical implementation challenge affecting the legal trade in Markhor hunting trophies. Despite being accompanied by valid CITES permits, several airlines continue to decline the transportation of these legally traded hunting trophies. Pakistan respectfully requests the Secretariat to engage with the International Air Transport Association and relevant airline operators to facilitate the transport of legally traded CITES specimens and help resolve this implementation issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Pakistan. I will invite the member. Okay. Parties. Observer organization. Okay. Okay, regarding the Markhor, the Animal Committee determines that the review of the Markhor will be deferred after the COP21, and the Animal Committee notes the intervention from the Pakistan. Thank you. Now we move to the next species, black rhinoceros, Dicernus bicornis. I would like to invite Namibia and South Africa. Namibia, you have the floor. South Africa. Okay, South Africa, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
So we have been implementing a science-based quota since the COP19, was it? And it's very low. It's at 0.5% of the population. We feel it is really very well managed, and we have a good adaptive management system in place. We will not be needing to submit any proposal to the COP, and we feel that we do not need to review the quota at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, South Africa. Any other parties will take the floor? Okay, Namibia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. At this point, we feel that our quota is very small, very sustainable, and it's based on science. Our population is doing very well, and also we are managing that quota very well. Our quota is total of 5 black rhinos trophies in a year, and so far the highest we have exported, I think it's about 4 per year, and therefore I don't think we need to act any further on that at this point. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Namibia. Any other observer parties will take floor? Okay, European.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just have very short comments on both the species, Capra falconeri and the black rhino. So I'm just doing it once to save some time. So for Capra falconeri from Pakistan, we agree that there's not a need for a review at this time. The quota appears to be well managed and conservative. Pakistan provided additional information, both available in the annex and also here on the floor, including a report on trophy hunting quota allocations for 2025 to 2026 and the criteria used by Pakistan to allocate quotas. And we would like to thank Pakistan for the additional information provided. Regarding the black rhino, we agree that there's not a need for a review at this time. Both countries have exported less than 4 trophies per year on average. The quotas appear to be well managed and conservative. So we do not, and thank the parties for their additional information. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Europe. Now I give the floor, Africa.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Au vu des éléments présentés par l'Afrique du Sud, nous considérons que la situation du rhinocéros noir ne justifie pas d'examen anticipé du quota, le calendrier prévu par la résolution COF 9.21 pouvant être maintenu. Merci.
Thank you, Africa. China, do you have the floor?
Thank you, Chair. China echoes Zimbabwe, Namibia, Botswana, Pakistan, and South Africa. Also, China would like to align with the position in recognizing that sustainable use can and does play a vital and valuable role in supporting local communities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. Now I would like to invite observer organization, 2 observer organizations. Oh, okay, first I will give to Asia.
Thank you, Chair, and sorry for late for pushing button. Thank you so much. I would like to, it's a general comment. I would like to express my gratitude to the range states for providing information and to the Secretariat for preparing a comprehensive report. I think that any review required by COP21 should be limited to urgent issues based on clear the latest scientific data and only when consent can be obtained from the range states. Since I believe it is the authorities in the range states who are monitoring the trends of the target populations on a daily basis, I think we should place greater emphasis on the information they provide. Thank you.
Thank you, Asia. Now I give the floor to wide-ranging South Africa.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this opportunity. All protocols observed.
When it comes to black rhino populations, we agree with the quota of 0.5% of the population because it is well regulated and it prevents any overuse. However, we would encourage CITES to consider populations based on male sex ratios, especially when it comes to black rhino populations. To give the committee just an overview of one population in South Africa that has 32 black rhino, 18 of which are male, 8 are female, 4 juvenile, and 2 sex undetermined. So we are sitting with a very skewed male population in a lot of the reserves. So we are having a situation of interspecies violence. We know of 2 male black rhino that have been killed recently in the last 2 weeks because of this. So it is something that I would implore the CITES committee to consider. While we look at populations, we must also look at sex ratios, because most game reserves in South Africa are sitting with an overpopulation of males and not enough females, and they don't know what to do with the male populations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then I give the floor to the Human World of Animals.
Thank you, Chair. I again speak on behalf of 14 organisations whose names will be provided. For black rhinos, which remain critically endangered, South Africa has indicated its intention to establish national hunting and export quotas for 2026 and 2027 at the subspecies level of 3 dB bicornis, 8 minor, and 1 Michaelii. For both Michaelii and bicornis, this quota will exceed 0.5% of the population of the subspecies, which does not align with the provisions in Resolution Conf 13.5 Rev Cop 18. Additionally, until recently, there's been no approved NDF for exports published by South Africa in accordance with domestic laws. Noting that South Africa's latest NDF shows that the principal black rhino subspecies, DB minor, has experienced effectively zero net growth since 2010, and that Kruger's population declined dramatically due to direct and indirect poaching impacts, we strongly recommend the committee adopt a review of this quota. Whilst I have the floor, I would like to just quickly discuss the leopard as well. Regarding leopard, there's scientific evidence to support undertaking a review. A recent study published in the Journal of Applied Ecology shows numbers are significantly lower than previously estimated, and current CITES hunting quotas would remove more than 10% of adult males in more than half of the assessed countries. Additionally, reliable population data remain lacking, and guidelines for leopard NDFs required under Decision 18.169 are still absent. The incomplete trade data for Zimbabwe, Zambia, and the Central African Republic further underscores the need for scrutiny. Regarding South Africa, a CITES quota of 150 is not aligned with its own scientific framework. The scientific authority has repeatedly reduced annual quotas to either 0 individuals or low double digits. Additionally, no approved NDF exists for leopard exports, although it is required by South African law, with the last draft from 2015 being a finding of detriment rather than non-detriment, which raises questions regarding the legality of exports. So again, we recommend a review of these quotas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then I need to conclude for the rhino first. Okay. For the black rhino, the Animal Committee determined that the review of the black rhino quota to be deferred after COP21. Okay. Thank you. Next. Okay, next, leopard. I would like to start to invite the range state that have the quota of leopard for trophy hunting. the range state parties. You have the floor. For Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Secretariat, for preparing this document. Uganda has a small leopard quota of only 28, which was established to address the rampant poisoning of leopards as a result of retaliatory killing from livestock predation. This quota, much as we have a quota of 28, we do take precautionary measures, and as you can see, we have never exceeded even half of this quota. And we still believe that it is important to address the issues of leopard human conflicts. Uganda has undertaken an NDF and 2 years ago shared a report of our NDF, which shows that this quota has not had a significant impact on the species. And as regards the recommendations in this document, Uganda believes that the review of the quotas should be deferred until after COP 2021, and also agrees with the request in paragraph 22B. Thank you.
Thank you, Uganda. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I won't repeat the same justifications for deferring the review to until after COP21 in line with existing regulations. But I may wish to draw your attention to the fact that Zimbabwe does have an export quota of 500 leopards, but the exports have remained well below that quota since 2016. So when we do the review, we'll look at this. There is no emergency at this present moment in time of initiating the review well before 2020, before the 21st COP. Otherwise, the population is well managed. The quota is being utilized well below the annual quota. So, Chair, we, for the same reasons that we've said over the CITES, we maintain that the review be carried out after the lapse of the 9-year period. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. South Africa.
Thank you, Chair. Before I give my intervention on leopard, just a point of order in allowing speakers to discuss other species when we're going species by species. For the leopard, for example, you haven't heard, the members haven't heard any interventions from the range states, yet there are speakers at the back that are already presenting their views on our leopard management. Okay, so for South Africa, we have a robust monitoring system in place for leopards. We have conducted a full and comprehensive NDF for the species and have adopted an adaptive management approach since 2016 for the management of the quota. We still require several years to gather additional information from the monitoring system on the recovery of leopard populations. And since this adaptive management framework has been in place, and it would be too soon to review our quota before COP21, and we would prefer that the review be deferred until after the COP. Also, just to point out that the data presented in document 26 is misrepresenting exports, since there are all the re-export data that have not been removed from the data before and presenting it in that table. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, South Africa, and thank you for reminding about the order, how we discuss on this one. So we want to make effective discussion. So I agree that we have to strict species by species, and thank you for reminding this. Okay, next I give the floor to Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. United Republic of Tanzania wishes also to align ourselves with the Zimbabwe and South Africa. Tanzania has a quota of 500 leopard established under Resolution 10.14. And we have demonstrated that the quota utilization has remained sustainable. The NDF submitted in the quota review in 2018 has proven that our management framework is in line with the provision of the present convention. So we feel that there is no need of reviewing this quota before COP21. We will be ready to share the information on how we manage our leopard population with the Secretariat as requested in the proposed decision, as well as share our leopard management plan, which is under the final review. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then Central African Republic.
Thank you. The Central African Republic fully supports the effort to develop evidence-based and conservative hunting quotas for leopards, lions, and other legally hunted species, with additional guidelines regarding sex, age, and social status for selected harvesting. We have already submitted a response regarding leopards to decision 18.169 review COP20. For the conference 10.14 review COP P19 to the Secretariat. The Central African Republic makes significant commitments and investments in the long-term conservation of leopards, lions, and other hunted species, primarily through the establishment and management of large-scale protected areas and community-based conservation zones with sustainable harvest, with a comprehensive and unifying land use plan. As mentioned yesterday regarding lion monitoring, the Central African Republic would like to reiterate the importance of developing best survey methods tailored to the local condition, in this case, Central and West Africa, and whenever possible, prioritizing and promoting community-based, low-tech, inexpensive, and easy-to-implement methods that can be repeated frequently and regularly in order to track trends and estimate population size of leopards, lions, cheetah, African wild dogs, and other focal species at the local, national, and regional level. Thank you.
Okay, Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. Zambia remains fully committed to implementing CITES provisions and contributing to regional and global efforts to secure the long-term survival of our leopards. We stand ready to share our data, management systems, and also legislative experience. Chair, we wish to reaffirm that our national leopard quota was formally established through the CITES process and remains at 80. Utilization has been within this number or less in most of the years. This quota is grounded in robust scientific assessments, long-term monitoring, and strict national legislation. Chair, I wish to reaffirm that Zambia has put in place new legislation which guides the management of our cats, the lion and the leopard. This legal framework provides strong protection for both lions and leopards and is supported by regulated management, transparent permitting, and enhanced enforcement to prevent illegal offtake and trade. Riding on what colleagues from Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Tanzania have indicated, we also wish to defer the review of this quota to after the next COP. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Zambia. Now I give to Botswana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Botswana wishes to align herself to the previous states of calling for the deferment of this review until after COP 2021. Botswana remains a stronghold of leopard populations and does have a very conservative quota of 130 that we never take. I wish to also share, Mr. Chairman, that we continually improve our monitoring instruments. To that end, we have published the regulations for hunting leopard that were gazetted in April 2026, basically effective during this hunting season, that prescribes just what, you know, size of leopard, the gender, etc. So we are confident that we are, you know, hunting within the provisions of CITES, and we are following all international protocols that are required. I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Botswana. Okay, I give the floor to Namibia, then followed by Kenya.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Namibia would like to align herself with the speakers from Tanzania, Zambia, Botswana, South Africa. We have a quota of 250 per year, which we feel is sustainable, it's grounded in science, and it's well managed. We therefore support the deferment of the review of the leopard quota after COP21. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Namibia. Before Kenya, I come back again to the committee. Is there any comment? The committee? After all the intervention from the reinstated headquarters? No, I give the floor to Kenya. A short intervention, please.
Thank you, Chair. Kenya has no issue with holding on carrying the review on the quotas before COP21. However, on the basis of the behavior of the Panthera pardus, we know that estimating the population is a challenge. And so parties may request for higher quotas when the population estimates are not fully understood. For many years, the quotas for hunting trophies for leopards from Kenya had been reflected under this resolution, when even Kenya had already banned hunting of leopards. And it took time until we raised the concern that the documentation in the CITES under the resolution remained that Kenya was still hunting when it was not the case. And so when we'll be reviewing the quotas specifically for the leopard, we may need to look at what parties have requested before against the offtakes and the utilization of those quotas, so that when we establish the quotas, then it reflects the reality in terms of the conservation status of the species and the trade levels. Looking at the data as presented in this document, under this Agenda 26, none of the parties that have allocated quotas for hunting for leopards has reached, in most cases, half of what has been allocated. Perhaps that could be an indication of we may not be having the populations, or we have set too high the quotas for the species. And so perhaps this committee may need to pay special attention to population estimates in the range states when reviewing the quotas for the next cycle, so as to reflect the state of affairs of the conservation of the species and the offtakes as allowed when we are setting the quotas. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kenya, and I come back to the committee. Africa, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. J'ai remarqué après le tour de table que aucun dépassement de quota n'a été relevé pour les parties concernées sur 2016-2024. Donc la situation est globalement satisfaisante. Le mécanisme d'échange d'informations mis en place est à saluer. C'est comme un modèle que nous devons étendre aussi à d'autres espèces, notamment pour le guépard. Donc voilà, il n'y a pas d'urgence, je pense, à un examen anticipé pour le léopard. On devrait maintenir le calendrier prévu tout en renforçant le partage d'informations déjà engagé. Et je partage également les commentaires du Kenyan de tout à l'heure. Merci.
Thank you, Africa. I think we need to wrap up this discussion, and interventions already have made from the organizations before, I think. So okay, committee, European.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the range states that have spoken on this issue. We acknowledge that the actual hunting quotas and leopard trophies exported is lower than the established quotas in most cases. That said, the quotas do appear to be relatively high, especially for some range states, and we believe that the export quotas should be aligned with actual hunting quotas and be based on the most up-to-date information on population status and trend. We note that one of the main challenges for implementing leopard conservation activities and management measures most frequently cited include lack of information on current leopard population size, status, and trends across its African range. However, we acknowledge that the range states that have spoken prefer to defer the review until after COP21, and the reasons provided include among other the need for more time to collect more information. When a review is to be initiated, the information provided and collated under Decision 18.169 Rev COP 20 and Decision 20.140, and any conclusions and recommendations that may follow the in-person workshop could be part of the information requested in the review for Panthera pardus, potentially limiting the additional burden of work a review under Resolution 9.21 Rev COP 18 would entail. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Europe. Okay, thank you for the patience. I'm sorry for the party who is still asking for the floor, but I think we have the voice from the committee, especially that already in line to wrap the agenda. So I will read the conclusion, and you can raise if you have any concern regarding the conclusions. So the Animal Committee notes concern raised about the quota potentially being too high, but determines that review of the leopard quota to be deferred after COP21. Invite Renstate to share information relating to the implementation of the decision 12.140 as appropriate with the 35th meeting of the Animal Committee. Okay. Nodding is agreement. Thank you.
Then we must go to 22B. 22B.
Okay, Yerob, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if this is the right time, but I'm not entirely sure what the final text of the AC recommendation relating to Acinonox jubatus was, because we do have a suggestion for additional recommendation.
So just want a clarification in terms of the review of the quota or defer to the COP21. Which one?
Yes, so if I understand correctly, the conclusion on the cheetah was that the Animals Committee, based on the information provided by Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe, the review will be deferred till after COP21.
Yeah.
We would like to suggest some additional wording.
But we can't.
Email? Oh.
Yeah.
So just to clarify.
Yeah, just we already conclude in the leopard in the 2020A. However, we now going to discuss in 2020B. If your concern can be elaborated in 2020B, it will be very good or will be compromise. So again, come back to recommendation 2020B. I would like to focus on this 2020B. So Uganda shown support on the 2020B, but I would like to views from the members. Then I invite parties. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je m'excuse, mais si vous pouvez répéter cette conclusion sommaire pour qu'on puisse vraiment être mieux fixé.
Yeah, the conclusion is all the species that in the document will be deferred at COP 2021. Okay, Ireland asks the floor. Ireland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We could agree to recommendation 22B, but with the addition of a phrase at the end. So after the species that's followed by a full stop, we would suggest inserting a comma that says, noting that the quantities of hunting trophies exported are considerably lower than those set out in resolution in whatever it is, I haven't got it in front of me, but basically noting that the quantities exported are considerably lower than those that were established many years ago by the COP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ireland. I think that's a good point. Then I come back to members. I come back to Asia, then to Europe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. From our review, because this agenda item took about 1 hour discussion on that, so I think we fully agree with you. We should move forward for this, for the conclusion. We think just how to say that, defer that until after COP21. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asia. Europe, you have the floor.
Is invited to welcome the Namibia's. Sorry. Yes. Thank you, Chair. We were just trying to discuss how we could solve an issue that's arisen. Starting with the B, we don't have any comments on that. We support that recommendation. And my apologies for coming back to A. It was not entirely clear to us that A would be divided species per species, but rather we thought that A, given how it's presented in the document, A would contain all of the species, so we waited until all of the species had been discussed. Because depending on the outcome of the species, the recommendations would look different, obviously.
Apologize. I would like to ask the interpreters for extend 5 minutes. Thank you. So come back to the recommendation 22B. Is there any objection for that recommendation?
Just like
Central African Republic.
Yeah, just to be sure here, when we add why the quota is not achieved, the reason why the Central African Republic does not meet this hunting quota is not the lack of huntable animals like leopards, but rather the logistic and economic reasons, because the country has had to go through various crises and is still going through some of them. And international tourism still has major reservation about Central African Republic. So therefore, responsible hunting, trophy hunting, is an important strategy to revive the economy after such a crisis. But that is only possible if you have something to sell. So if you have the quota. So responsible trophy hunting needs a substantial quota that we can work with and then apply at the reality, at the ground, what is possible. So it's very normal to have a high quota and then have a lower harvest. This is not bad management. This is actually how it should be. We set a maximum quota and then we see what the reality is at the ground and we harvest what is possible given the circumstances. That's just as clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Central African Republic. But now we are not going to debating on that, but that's really good information. Then I come back to the members Europe.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize for causing this issue. Could one solution be to add a new recommendation, little c?
Yes, can you read out?
Yes. So I sent the Secretariat some text, but it's been a bit amended to work as a new recommendation. So then little c would read, note the information provided by range states on the floor and specifically welcome Namibia's commitment to review their export quota for cheetahs and management and hunting regulations based on the best available and most up-to-date scientific information, comma, and if deemed necessary, submit a proposal for COP21 to amend the export quota in the annotation of the listing. Thank you, Chair.
I will come back to Namibia. Is it okay with the additional proposed by the European? Yeah, Namibia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can you just allow us time to focus a bit on that? Because it has just been put to us now, and we have really not thought about it. And we also want to see the text in writing so we can absorb it much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Namibia. I would like to invite Secretariat to explain in detail how we move forward for this. Thank you, Secretariat.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the committee for your indulgence. I just want to explain that, for example, for the cheetah, the committee determined that based on the information provided by Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe, the review will be postponed. and the details of the information provided by Namibia will be in the summary record. So their commitment relating to the review of the export quotas, management and hunting regulations, etc., the whole intervention made by Namibia will be captured in the summary record. And so that is reflected in the record of the meeting. So adding a specific recommendation on that might not be needed based on the fact that that will be reflected. So that's just a challenge in terms of, or that's what we propose as a compromise, that the Namibia's full intervention will be there, the whole commitment is already, will be captured in the record, so there's maybe no need to further reflect on that in the recommendation.
I think Europe's still asking for the floor. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is just to say that we can agree with that compromise and just want to make sure that also the last part, that if deemed necessary to submit a proposal, will also be included in the summary record. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Europe. I think that's really good understanding. Then now I conclude the item recommendation 22B agreed. Okay, I just want to clarify to the members for the conclusion to 2020B. Is there any already agree with the recommendation in 2020B for the agenda 26? Recommendation 2022B. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So recommendation 2022B is adopted and the agenda 26 is closed. Thank you. And also I would like to thanks to the interpreter for extensions the time. So thank you. And there will be quick announcement for the Secretariat.
Thank you, Chair. Just to let those participants know that we'll also be staying on for the Plants Committee, that you can visit the registration desk to obtain your badges for the Plants Committee, keeping in mind that tomorrow we will have the joint session. So please collect your badges if you're staying for the Plants Committee. Thank you.